Ditch the balcony and join us at the drive-in. This is Arthouse Summer. I'm the MovieDude Eric, the host to Bloody Killed Bill Shakespeare.
I'm Chris Tondevold.
Hi, Jonolobster here. My perfect Sunday includes watching every episode of Space, sampling all 3 flavors of the Cornetto ice cream cone, and acting out scenes from my fanfic version of Edgar Wright's Ant-Man.
In this episode, we're discussing Hot Fuzz, starring Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Jim Broadbent, Olivia Colman, Patty Considine, and Timothy Dalton, directed by Edgar Wright.
Written by Wright and Simon Pegg.
That is correct. Welcome back, Lobster.
Hey, thanks for having me back. I have a bone to pick. Ready? This is not a summer movie. What are we doing?
This is a summer movie. This came out in May of 2007, if I'm not correct.
You are not correct. So the UK premiere was February 2007. The US premiere was April 2007. But I think you could be forgiven. And I will say that this film is a pastiche of summer movies. And I think that's why it fits in this genre. I was gonna argue with you on dates, but I think spiritually this is a summer movie. How do you feel about that statement? Can we allow it?
I hope so.
We've had an Avengers and a Fast and Furious movie. In fact, 2 Fast and Furious movies.
That's true.
Debuted in April. So we'll retroactively call semi-April a summer slate.
The summer movie season 2020, I think, is going to be in January. So, that's going to be that's really going to throw things into a bit of a cocked hat.
Well, we'll just have to do kind of an art house winter wonderland or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. But gentlemen, this is Arthouse Legends' 3rd Edgar Wright film. We've done Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and Shaun of the Dead. And if I'm not correct, Lobster, you weren't even on the on one of those episodes, if I'm not correct.
I was not. And now I can't remember which one I wasn't on. I must have been there for Shaun of the Dead, right? That would have been Arthouse of Horror. And then I don't think I was on for Scott Pilgrim, because we're doing it actually in 3 or 4 weeks on Legends to coincide with the 10th anniversary of that film. So, yeah, I mean, you know me, big Edgar Wright fan over here. So I appreciate you giving me the chance to come on and talk about my love for this particular entry in the what's now known as the 3 Flavors Cornetto trilogy.
That is true.
And I want to say that this is where it turned into a trilogy, right? Because I don't think it started with Shaun of the Dead. I think this is where they thought about it and thought, we could do 3 movies and have them tangentially related with ice cream.
Honestly, I don't know if it was ever intended to be 3 flavors at this particular point, because technically speaking, The World's End only came about because Ant-Man fell apart, and so I don't know if they were ever intending to do The World's End or not. I kept feeling like that was one of those things that was on the back burner, especially because at that particular point Simon Pegg had become big and he was deep into the Star Trek thing. Nick Frost was starting to kind of become a big thing in Britain.
He'd done TV shows. Yep. And
so I feel like, if anything, Hot Fuzz was more kind of just a companion piece to Shaun of the Dead. It was meant to be just something to kind of go along with it, that you can have a fun double feature. I feel like it was only when The World's End, when they conceptualized The World's End, that they made it into this trilogy. And I still feel that at some point we are going to get a quadrilogy. I feel like there is going to be a 4th Cornetto at some point. But
there's a line in the commentary track for this where Simon Pegg says something about, this joke, this is from a pub crawl movie that we never made. So, it was kind of out there. I think the idea for that movie was out there. I don't know if the alien invasion angle was there, but it was like it was somewhere in the ethos. I'm going to let the dog out because now she's scratching at the door.
She can't make up her
Or
mind.
are you? Nope, she can't. All right. We're good.
But Chris, what is your familiarity with Edgar Wright? What is your opinion of him as a filmmaker?
He's amazing. I've seen all the Cornetto. I don't know how to speak. Cornetto. I've seen all of them. I've also Baby Driver is about 80% of that movie is one of my favorite movies that it's been made. Edgar Wright, just for me, he's always someone that I want to see more of because everything is so good. It's stylized. It's hilarious. Watching Hot Fuzz again, I mean, every joke that they put in there is just basically perfect. And the fact that he's commentating on police while being police is just fantastic.
And I gotta say that when it comes to this particular movie, especially now that we actually have it as a trilogy, I kind of feel like this is the one that doesn't get as much attention of the three. And maybe that's just from me because I'll kind of tip my hand here. The World's End is my favorite of the Cornettos. It was my number one film of 2013. Was it 2012 or 2013? But it was
2013.
It was my favorite film of that year, and one of the best films of the decade, in my opinion. And so Hot Fuzz, at least for me specifically, maybe I'm projecting a little bit here, but Hot Fuzz kind of is the forgotten brother of the Cornetto trilogies, and so kind of coming back to this film,
right? With
that in mind, I have to admit, I had to watch this movie 3 times in the last 4 days because I didn't realize just how much was going on. And I will still say that this is one of those that is so subtle. And I think part of it is that it's a little bit ahead of its time, just a little bit. And that makes this movie even more awesome. I feel like moving forward, this movie is going to be given more attention than maybe the other two. Because I feel like it's actually got something that is saying that maybe it didn't know that it was saying at the time, but it definitely is now coming pretty loud.
I think this one might be my favorite. Like Shaun of the Dead gets a lot of praise just because of all the different things that it's done as far as redefining horror and the comedy horror. But for me, like what you said, I mean, there's so many different layers inside of Hot Fuzz and so much foreshadowing and just like subtle ways that it plays with everything. If you're not paying attention, then you're not picking up on a lot of the different stuff that is happening, which is just beautiful because they're going through so much and they put so much in front of you that if you're not seeing everything, like what you said, 3-4 times in 4 days, I mean, you hopefully got everything. I don't know if you saw all of it.
It's really tough for me to rank the Cornetto movies because they're all good at what they do, and each one is ostensibly tackling a different genre and also like a different phase of your life, right? So Shaun of the Dead is about growing up. It's about this slacker guy who has to get his life together, right? And come up with a plan and commit. And it's about zombies. Yeah. Hot Fuzz is about a top of his game professional who has no personal life. He has no work-life balance. And it's about him relaxing. It's about him loosening up and being able to realize that part of being a well-rounded human being is you have to have that balance. You have to have someone you care about and you can still be good at your job. The World's End, and it's about cops and murders, right? Yeah. The World's End is about Simon Pegg's battle with alcoholism. And that, to me, that puts it in like a separate category when you realize that everything that his character is going through, Simon Pegg went through or was going through at that moment. And that, like, to me, that classes out that movie a little bit. And it's about an alien invasion, and it's about nostalgia, and you can't go home again. And, you know, you grow up, you turn into a different person, and then you make your way in the world. Like, all of these movies deal with similar but different themes and completely different genres, but tell the same jokes. Like, that's the other thing is all of these movies are hyper layered. I know we're going to talk about foreshadowing with regards to Hot Fuzz, but the foreshadowing in Shaun of the Dead, they lay everything out with the plan. The first scene, the flashback scene at the beginning of The World's End, is the entire movie, and then you just watch it unfold again. We'll talk about Hot Fuzz in a bit, but all of these movies are so brilliantly crafted in the same way, but each is unique. It's so hard for me. I go 1 and 2, Hot Fuzz, World's End, and I flip back and forth, probably based on which I've seen most recently.
And I can definitely understand that. And I feel like, in a way, I'm getting to that point where I can't really judge these. I feel like this and The Lord of the Rings, I cannot judge. Right. I feel like in a way, I almost want to watch all three at the back to back whenever I do this, because I feel like, again, you have a point there. It does tell kind of a personal story, yet at the same time, they're all unique in their own right in their own vibe, and I appreciate that. But
and if you've watched Spaced, like if you've watched Spaced as kind of like the first experiment in this too, you see a lot of the same stuff, and you see them playing with those ideas and the filmmaking style. Rick and Morty does this a lot, where like and Community did this a lot. So Dan Harmon, I think, each one kind of apes a different genre, or like, it's all these hallmarks of something. But Edgar Wright is so skilled at layering things in. And Baby Driver is a heist movie, and Scott Pilgrim's a video game movie. And, everything that he does is kind of has this genre tint. And I'm so excited that he's doing a time travel thriller next. I cannot wait. Last Night in Soho, we just got kind of the first look at it, but back to Sanford.
Yeah, I could talk about Edgar Wright for 3 weeks and still have stuff to say. So let's get into Hot Fuzz itself, because there is so much here to talk about. And I guess the first thing that I would like to talk about specifically is the fact that Hot Fuzz is kind of a combination of two genres, specifically the buddy cop genre, and of all things, kind of the serial killer,
Scream,
mysterious, the stranger in a dangerous land genre. And what I mean by that is like the Wicker Man kind of comes to mind. Midsommar. You stole it right from my mouth. Midsommar.
I just watched it. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
If we want to do that later,
that is a summer movie. We could make that a special episode.
Look, I did it 2 weeks ago on Legends, so download that episode, Legends Podcast.
I still haven't seen the director's cut. I do want to see the 3-hour version. I'm curious to know what they added to the film. But anyway, back to Hot Fuzz though. This movie is covering those two genres specifically. Now, here's my question for you: does this film fit into those genres, or do you feel like it kind of deviates, or that it doesn't exactly fit into those genres? I'm curious to know.
Well, it's playing in a couple different lanes, right? It's the buddy cop movie, so setting up the friendship between Nicholas and Danny. It's the conspiracy. You move this idyllic small town, but like nothing is what it seems, and everyone has kind of this ulterior motive, and it's heavily implied, and all kinds of stuff. But then it's not exactly what you think, but it's exactly what you think. That whole thing.
You mean like a dystopia?
Yeah, but more like Wicker Man and Midsommar, where it's, you're just kind of slowly peeling back the layers and figuring things out. And in that regard, it's almost an Agatha Christie, because just like Murder on the Orient Express, everybody's the killer, right? Like you get this very, layered sort of mystery that you have to pull back. And it's an action movie, specifically a Bayhem style action movie, which is heavily discussed, or Point Break, it's heavily discussed and then imitated or replicated, including lines like "the shit just got real," and shot for shot, homages. Yeah. And, it's also kind of a very sweet story of friendship and platonic love. Like, there's not a love interest. There's not a, character I'm mulling over proposing to. That kind of...
There is a moment where there's an innuendo definitely going on where after a night of drinking, you have Danny asking Nicholas to come in for one more drink. And I'm sorry, but that definitely has a non-platonic aspect to it. But at the same time,
let me show you my movie collection by the power of Grayskull. I think it is, as an adult trying to make new male friends, like sometimes you gotta be like, do you want to hang out again? Like, should we do this again? Like, go see a movie or something? I've been there.
Awkward, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have. So some of the same lines get used, I suppose. And it's also, and I don't really know how to express this other than to say that it was filmed in Edgar Wright's hometown where he grew up. So there's this weird nostalgia of small town life, and while at the same time things are made to seem sinister and creepy, it's also trying to tell you like what actually makes a good small town in terms of the community and the relationship. So it's firing on a lot of cylinders, and I want to say that it doesn't really miss a beat in doing so.
Definitely not. Yeah, it hits on everything. It makes it to where the small town is that picture perfect place, and that's ultimately what they want to keep, is that picture perfect place at any expense. And it's just really cool because you have Simon Pegg's character looking around, being that hard-boiled cop and saying, no, you have to look at everything. Everything is suspect. And trying to, like, break him out of that, but then he ends up being right at the same time, too. It's a little, like, a mixed message in there. But I think one of my favorite parts of that is the whole thing was that scene that Eric was talking about where Danny says, let me help you. And then he just chooses Point Break or Bad Boys 2, and there's no either or, it's both. You just got to let me know which one we're doing.
Right.
And it's just perfect. And the other part where Danny is asking him, oh, have you shot 2 guns while you're jumping in the air? Has it been 1? Have you been in high speed pursuit? Just like all the...
Have you ever fired your gun whilst in high speed pursuit?
Right.
And it's just... The funny thing is, throughout the movie, they do
everything happens.
Everything
happens.
The only one that doesn't happen is shoot the person in the head and the head explodes. That's the only thing that doesn't happen.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's perfect the way that they use.
Because there's not a spot where if you shoot a man, his head will explode. His head will blow up.
Yeah, you just got to use a different bullet. That's all.
Yeah.
I feel like there should have been that should have been somewhere in the movie. I mean, I understand why
just
they
a melon,
don't.
like there's a melon somewhere.
Yeah.
We'll talk about maybe that. The body count is very skewed. They don't kill anyone. They shoot a lot of people, but everyone is shown to be standing for their mugshot. So,
and there are some horrific deaths in here.
Right,
yeah, horrific.
The body count is 6, maybe 7.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like, even that 7th is maybe because we don't. I mean, the fact that everyone else survived
the explosion at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone else survives. I feel like it would be really weird if that was
he blows up. Yeah.
Only one that dies. But
I mean, he was hoist on his own sea mine, but
that's true. But all right, so let's talk about Nicholas Angel, our main protagonist, because I have to admit this is a interesting subversion.
Yeah,
he is technically speaking, at the beginning of the film, he is disgraced, right? Or it's kind of
he's
the way
perfect. He is everyone else compared to him is a disgrace.
He is too perfect,
literally,
and therefore he
the
is
cop
a
who can't be stopped. He's the super cop.
400% higher arrest rate than everybody else. 400%. That's insane.
And it's shown that he doesn't arrest everyone. It's very important to him to build a good community policing model, and he's very community focused and community forward. And again, this is a big difference from understanding culture in the UK. Cops do not carry guns. Your average beat cop does not carry a firearm. And he has not touched a gun for years. So, but it's not that he can't do it, because you see him in many action-oriented scenes, including my favorite cameo, stabbed in the hand by a man dressed as Father Christmas, played by Peter Jackson. So he's an amazing cop, but he makes everybody else look bad, and we need to get rid of him.
And I love the fact that especially when it comes to that scene, that he has to go through 3 superiors. So
you want to take this upstairs? You want to go to you want me to bother the chief inspector? Okay.
Oh, hey, David, come here. I mean, and he's right outside the door. Like he is expected to. Well,
he was waiting for cake.
Oh, okay. You got a point there. And I love the fact that even his, he's so good. Even his entire unit is ready for him to go.
They're happy for him,
right?
Congratulations! You're going off to the country. It's everyone's dream.
He's being sent upstate. I mean, to a farm of no places. I mean, it's almost. I don't know if that was ever Edgar Wright's intention with that aspect, but we're sending we're sending him off to the country to go live on a farm.
And this is a common trope in these cop drama setup. But it's usually the bad cop. It's usually the renegade cop who's screwed up one too many times. So he's transferred to some podunk backwater, and he's got to bring the town to heel with his not so by the book ways. This is the exact opposite of that, and I love it.
Yeah.
I also really love the fact that each of his superiors are really good actors, but are there for just 30 seconds, and it's just perfect.
Well, with the exception of Coogan, they're all a part of Wright's growing troupe, because both Bill Nighy and Martin Freeman were both in Shaun of the Dead. Coogan, I guess that he just had an empty day between doing the Trip movies.
And I believe the other 2 are credited, and Coogan is not.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there are so many cameos in this movie, and part of it is the fact that you could tell that Wright is honoring genre films, especially genre films that he loves. But there are some that you almost kind of feel like these are people that love Shaun of the Dead. There was an opening, and they just said, "Hey, whatever. If you need me to come in and do this scene, I will come and do the scene," including the second greatest actress, still living actress today, Cate Blanchett, who I just gotta say, I love this scene. Honestly, you didn't need this scene. This scene is almost superfluous, with the exception that what it does is everything that she says is something that Danny's going to say later. In fact, you could almost say that Danny pretty much is the nagging girlfriend that Cate Blanchett was before the movie started. As that's the only reason why this scene is there. But I love it so much, especially poor Bill. Poor
Nicholas.
Well, not Nicholas. Not Bill. What was his name?
Bob. Dave.
Yeah, Bob. So
does he look like my type?
And they're all just in the uniforms. That's great. Yeah. And
this scene, I mean, one, it's Cate Blanchett just from her eyes, right?
Yes.
That's all you need for you to know who that is. Right away it's Galadriel. But this scene does a couple things, which is, one, it sets up where Nicholas is at with his character. That, you feel bad for him in the first scene, but you feel kind of even worse for him now. It like makes him a little bit more sympathetic, and you kind of know.
Really?
Well, where his character needs to go. You know where he's starting from. He's at a place where he takes his job so seriously that people at work don't want to deal with him. And he takes his job so seriously that he has no personal life whatsoever. So you know that this movie is going to be about finding a balance in his character. And also it establishes him as a good police officer, because he's able to say, that window was broken from the inside, right? And then they're like, oh, what? What?
I love the fact that there's just this like bumbling Keystone Cops aspect to that, and you kind of sets up that Nicholas is always on the job, always
right.
on the job, even when he's not on the job, he's on the job, and he doesn't
know how to turn it off. That's what they say.
And so when he gets into Stanford, and we start to meet the people of this community. Uh-huh. I love how we get that information little by little, but at the same time, this movie moves pretty quickly through the first act. The first act, he comes in, he goes to the bar. I love the fact that the first thing he orders is a cranberry juice, which says a lot about his character. Right off the bat, that he's going to the pub not to get drunk. He's there to first meet the people, because he knows that's going to be the center of the nightlife in a small town. But also at the same time, he's also establishing himself as a peacemaker. Mm-hmm. And I especially like the fact that the first thing he does is he goes after all the minors. The pub scene is awesome in the sense that first it introduces us to the bar owner and his wife, or the two bar owners. I don't know if they're co-owners or how that situation is, but this is our first indication of what will be the conspiracy, right? This will give us our first.
It's also fascist.
Well, that's
the hotel.
innkeeper. Yeah, the innkeeper, fascist, hag. I love the wordplay. Love it.
Also wordplay when he walks into the hotel. She says it would seem that the heavens have opened, because it's like pouring Angel. The rain.
Yes.
But his name is Angel, which is I just love that.
Oh,
and there's setup and payoff. Like this movie, I don't know if you could come up with another movie directed by anyone who's not Edgar Wright that has this amount of setup and payoff all the way through the movie, from the first lines to the last.
I feel like the only ones that I could say are on the same link is Monty Python,
mm-hmm.
and that is a high standard, just to say.
And the scene you're talking about, somebody asked him if he's going to arrest the whole village, which by the end of the movie, he pretty much has.
Well, he said not all of them. So technically speaking, he is right. But I love how, that when in the pub, we first get this first inkling of kind of how things are not really right. Because first off, we have a pub that is basically allowing a kids' night for all intents and purposes. And so he kicks them all out. Our first introduction to Danny, even though we don't really know who Danny is at this particular point. And we also forget our first inkling of the fact that these bar owners, they have all the smiles, and they're all, they're very chipper, and what you would consider to be, small town hospitality, but there's a underlining to that there's kind of a something ominous with this personality, and as someone who grew up in small towns, and especially southern small towns where smiles do have a tendency to shade nefarious individuals and nefarious
to hide sharp teeth.
Yes, You get the sense that Edgar Wright is definitely, in a way, kind of commenting about small towns a little bit. And I think a part of it is that there's something insular about small towns.
Right.
And
yeah, he's the outsider. He's disrupting things, the way of life.
He doesn't know how things are. And the thing is like you talked about the innkeeper with the word fascist, and in a way you feel like it is slightly a barb. But by the end of the movie, technically speaking, she's the fascist. She's the fascist,
yeah. Well, they all are. And that's what this film does so brilliantly, is it establishes expectations and then subverts them. And all the way through the movie, it's doing that. It's setting up your perspective on a character, and then it either subverts it or, reinforces it in some way that distracts you, like Simon Skinner. Like, you immediately get a villainous vibe from him. And that's kind of the first thing he says is, "Lock me up. I'm a slasher. I can't be stopped." And you just, all the way through, you're like, oh, this is the bad guy. This is the bad guy. And then he is the bad guy, but he's not the only one.
I feel like, in a way, they kind of played a little bit of the Scream aspect on that one.
Or Clue, just Clue. A red herring.
But again, the thing is I love the fact that the villains in this movie are all out in the front. It basically tells you, these are bad guys. That's a bad guy. That's a bad guy. That's a bad guy. Even the more subtler ones, you just, if you didn't figure out that they were a bad guy until later, you kick yourself for not realizing it, because these people are hiding, overtly hiding bad things, willfully ignoring bad things.
And one of the ways in which this movie is a little timely, I think we'll talk about the other one as it relates specifically to policing, but it's all the bad guys are of a certain generation. They're of the older generation that, wants to, and I'm going to say it, make Sanford great again. Which is a line that is stated in the film. They say it in the movie in 2007. But it's all the older generation, and that's not to say that some of the older characters aren't also their victims when they don't fit their plan.
Right.
But this is very much a sort of generational conflict in the movie, and just to skip right to the end, where you see the updated police car. It's a modern car like that. And that shows you that this is kind of a past versus future. And they want to keep the village locked in this idyllic past that may never have existed, but they want to keep it that way. It's about preserving a spot in time as well.
Well, also the way that they when they dress up as the slasher, again, I feel they're kind of playing off of Scream a little bit on that. But even though the costume that they adopt for their killer is something that is old. It's not
a plague doctor type thing. And in fact, you see in Jim Broadbent's office in the corner, you see that black robe in a glass case. And that's like an old style policeman's frock. And he wears it towards the end. But I think it's supposed to represent an old, city watch type outfit.
Yeah. But what's your take on all of this, Chris?
So, I think Jono's right. The generational thing is very much a piece of this. Every layer of niceness and perfectness has that also very close underlayer of something is very wrong here. And when you're looking at a town that is basically perfect and has, I don't remember what their record was for being voted the best town or something like that. But it's years and years and years. and it's just
20 years.
There you go. And it's just what you have to do to keep up appearances, basically,
right.
And the fact that people will do very nefarious things to keep this great image of themselves, even though everything is failing. So we do kind of get a little bit of that when even the flower shop owner starts talking about the selling of the land and the bigger I don't remember what the market
bypass,
was, but
the bypass,
so you have all that. So I think that modernization versus kind of keeping that pristine old school feel to everything, that very much English countryside where you may so happen to have an arsenal in a barn with a sea mine. And
I think that's supposed to be their weapons because
right.
At the scene at the end where they're all sitting in the castle, they all have like clubs and swords, because I think all their guns were confiscated.
There's a awesome line that happens with the first bar scene with Angel and the rest of Stanford PD, where Patty Considine is talking about, you'll know that there are more guns in the country than there are in the city.
Yeah.
And he goes,
who has the guns?
Farmers moms.
Yeah.
And the farmer and the farmer's mom both have guns.
And it's perfect. It's just one of those setup and payoffs that you get throughout the entire movie, and that is just perfectly done because you don't think about it, right? It's just a throwaway line because you think of a small town, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and then you realize, oh no, they have all of the guns. They have so many.
Yeah, they have this stockpile. So, Eric, you were going to mention something, and I'm just looking at our notes here. You were going to mention something about names and the characters' last names being kind of telling about their characters.
Mm-hmm.
I unpacked that a little bit more because I didn't want to kind of disagree I don't want to disagree with what you said because you haven't said it, but I want to give you my theory. Names are really important in this movie. Also, if you look at The World's End, the last names of all the characters are King, Knight, Prince, Chamberlain. It just goes on and on, throughout the characters. But in this movie, the characters all have last names that relate to occupations, but also tell you something about them. I'll read some of them. So Martin Blower is an actor, a lawyer, and a blowhard. Hatcher is the doctor who brought Danny into this world and be the one to take him out of it. Merchant is the salesman of refrigerators. Messenger is the newsman. Porter is a type of beer. Porter owns the pub. Mm-hmm. Reaper is a farmer. It kind of goes on and on. Leslie Tiller is the florist. Thatcher is the female police officer, the token female, like Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Turner, one of my favorite ones, the twin brothers, Bill Bailey, who take their turn at the front desk. So all of the characters' names are kind of set up for that. Obviously, you have Angel, who's kind of the morally perfect person. His numbers are 777, the number of God. Armstrong, Lurch, Michael Armstrong, is the strong arm of the NWA. And I'll give you a bonus. So Cartwright and Wainwright, the Andes, both are always right. You don't want to believe them, but they are always right. Farmers' moms pack guns, because you see that at the end. Aaron A. Aronson is a real person.
Yes,
right?
Because
you meet him at the end. And if you want to be a big cop in a small town, fuck off up the model village.
It's fantastic. I love the whole thing. It's so good.
Oh man, and yes, you definitely. The thing is, I completely when I was making out that list of the names, I completely just disregarded the fact that pretty much every name in every Edgar Wright movie has a
meaning. double meaning. And you do have, so you have Staker, Shooter, Skinner. So you do have Treacher, Treacherous. You do have some like dark names as well, or sinister names. Another one I love is Mr. Webley, the old man, where they find the arsenal. Webley is a very famous type of gun. It's a British revolver. So it all connects and it all pays off. The only one I have a little bit of trouble with is Butterman. But if you think about Frank Butterman's character, is he's constantly buttering up Angel to kind of distract him. That fits. And, I guess Danny, because he's a little portly.
But another thing I kind of appreciate about the Buttermans specifically is, in a way, they're tragic figures in all of this, right? And I'll say here, there is one other villain in this movie that doesn't get his comeuppance, and I'm going to make that argument right here. The villain that doesn't get his comeuppance at the end of the film are the organizers of the Best Village Awards. Because technically speaking...
How dare they put this pressure on these small towns to turn against each other?
Everything that is set up happens after this, after they start doing this competition, because
and they lose the title.
It's what drives Butterman's wife to go crazy and commit suicide. Which drives him towards fulfilling her purpose to the nefarious ends that they do. And we're going to talk about the nefarious ends in just a bit.
If she knew what you had done, she'd kill herself all over again.
Yeah, it's the stress that it puts on the community to be the best in order to... to keep up appearances, not
good British comedy.
Yep, I was trying to say no pun intended.
It's
to
bouquet,
the
not bucket. And if you've watched British TV at all, like this is a thing. Like there's all these shows like Britain's Best this, Britain's Best that, and this is like a very popular genre in England to kind of have these contests and award. Either individuals or whole communities these laurels.
Yeah, and so the way that this competition has driven these people to do vicious and evil things in order to achieve this success, or perhaps they're using that as an excuse for that success. I feel like we could easily say that this organization is perhaps unintentionally evil, but then again, we don't know. We don't know what other, because this is a very, from what it sounds like, the other communities that are the other villages that are going up for this are just as competitive.
Yeah, they could be doing the same horrible things.
Yeah. And so, I want to talk about the secret that this town holds, because there's something truly. I want to say that this is more evil than perhaps a lot of the more vicious horror titles that came out in the 2000s and even in the 2010s, because what this. The way the Angel is pursuing this, he's thinking like there's some sort of conspiracy, this thing to make people rich, that there's the things that you would normally associate with
motive,
the modus for murder. And no, it's just in order to win this fucking competition. And so, like, to the point where,
well, everyone is buried in the church cemetery. There's this like hidden crypt of all their victims throughout the years that they have made to disappear to exact this sort of justice to create the desired outcome. And even people who have transgressed in the law. So like the shoplifting kid, like he says, well, we should press charges and he should face justice. Oh no, he'll come around. We'll let him go and give him a second chance. No, they kill him and bury him.
Yeah, in order so that they don't have to have it in the books that they had crime.
Sure.
Because if you don't report the crimes,
we want to prevent him from being just another statistic.
Right.
Yeah, they do say that.
And everything is an accident. Right? Everything is just a happy little accident.
Why is the accident rate so high and the murder rate so low?
Because
she tripped and fell on her own garden shears.
But the thing is that as I'm watching this, something else very recent was coming to mind about how you don't report other things in order so that your numbers don't go up.
Right. Yeah.
And to me, like I was getting this sick feeling in my stomach with that, not because this movie is terrible, but because we've become straight.
Do you think if we, obviously if you do more testing, you're going to have more cases? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm just saying that if you have more
could
trials,
be a thing.
You'll have more statistics. And statistics will make you not the best village in all of England.
I think this is where this movie is eerily prescient, because other than Make Sanford Great Again and the kind of blind loyalty to a past that never truly existed or was never idyllic, like it was always tinged with racism and hatred and oppression and fascism, right? Mm-hmm. Like that is so on the nose for 2020, but also kind of this collective willful ignorance of the truth and just like buying into the lie because it's more convenient.
And so you're saying that Simon Pegg's character is the true villain?
I mean, I don't think he's the true villain. He's the rationalist. He's maybe the scientist of, he might be the Dr. Anthony Fauci of this story, where he's like, no, like, open your eyes. Things are bad. Like, you've all been brainwashed.
Oh, the one with facts.
Yeah, the one with
those?
facts.
I don't know what those are.
Right. And there is that kind of aspect to this movie, which certainly in 2007 felt more far-fetched than it does today. In 2007, it felt more like The Wicker Man. Today, it feels more like
real life.
Yeah, reading the news.
Well, the thing is that I love about Angel when it comes to his personality in regards to the situation is that he uses his biggest tool, the one that he puts the most emphasis in, is his notebook. Documentation. Yeah. Constantly documenting, constantly getting his facts straight. Yep. Even when he kind of goes, the one time that he doesn't
have it with him. Yeah.
That he doesn't document is the one time that he fails. And the thing is even afterwards, he's thinking about, okay, well, how can I fix this? Yeah. Like he is, the way that they set him up is that he's the disinfectant. He's I'm thinking back on the infamous Cobra line from Sylvester Stallone's Cobra. Is like, crime is a cancer, I'm the cure. Like, sure. And to me, Nicholas Angel is a refutation against that, and he does it right. Like, he is what you want your cop to be. And on top of that, from what it sounds like, especially when it comes to actual British police officers and to extent some quite a few American police officers, they actually like this interpretation of an officer because he does it by the book, and and the thing is he earns that respect. Yeah, like the ones that are breaking the law, they hate his guts. The ones that know that he could come after them, they're scared of him.
There's an argument in this movie that good policing, effective policing, is boring, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you keep the peace, then there's not car chases and gunfights and violence in the streets. If you keep the peace through building an effective community by building a trusting relationship between the citizens and the police service, force, official vocab guidelines say force is too aggressive, so we have to say service. If you uphold the social contract between the police and the citizens, that is what makes a safer society. The NWA uses fear and violence and atrocity to maintain peace. And by eliminating any interloper or interferer, rather than, adopt some sort of corrective policy, such as we're going to pass an ordinance banning the living statue from the streets, right? We're going to use security cameras and have Big Brother be watching and take away your civil rights, rather than find a way for we're going to have a statue-free zone in downtown or whatever.
Well, I mean, one day you have living statues, the next day you have filthy jugglers, man.
That's right.
The next thing
and you're just balls deep.
We are up to our balls in jugglers. There are so many crusty jugglers.
Yes.
Travelers. Dog
and
muck.
Don't dual wheel pistols, dual wheel pins. I mean,
yes, yeah, and like that's the other thing, that Angel represents what a good cop is and what a good cop does. He's progressive, he's efficient, he's conscientious, and again, like, because it's playing with these genres, they have to loosen him up a bit, and he has to, tell a bit of a dirty joke at the end and all of that. But I mean, it really is saying, like, this is what good cops are. This is what, we should be aspiring to, not, Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon, or, Stallone or whatever. This is what we should be aspiring to.
What I appreciate is, like, when you talk about the dirty joke that he tells, what I appreciate about how the film sets that up is because over the movie, we kind of get to know Officer Craigie.
Officer Thatcher.
Officer Thatcher.
Remember Margaret Thatcher. A criminally underused Olivia Colman, I will say.
Oh, for sure.
In this movie.
Well,
we didn't know how lucky we were to have her.
Yes, and quite honestly, ever since then, she's done everything to make sure that we never forget her, and I know I will not, ever.
But she came up through comedy. She came up through doing things like Look Around You.
Peep Show.
Yeah, with people who have cameos in this movie. So,
well, no, she's worked with Martin Freeman. She's worked with Nick Frost. She's worked with Jim Broadbent before and after.
And I think part of the Coleman-sance, when we really started to appreciate her, was Broadchurch, which is a small town police conspiracy story.
She was in another series, and I don't remember the dude's name, but she played the wife of a preacher, or the English. I don't know what the English equivalent. Vicar. Yeah, there you go. And she's beautiful and great in it. And it's one of my favorite little series that she's in. The dude that's in it was also in Bird Box, and that's the only one that I remember he was in. And he just had his eyes burned out in it, and it was fantastic.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, that happens.
But yeah, Olivia Colman should have been, and I guess because we're looking back, right? So we know how great she is now, but she should have had a better place with it.
Sure.
Well, the thing is like the other characters in a part of that police squad, a lot of these guys had already been well established by this particular point. Paddy Considine, like I remembered him from In America, which in my opinion he was robbed of an Oscar nomination.
Right.
If you've ever seen it. It's the best immigrant coming to America movie since An American Tale, in my opinion. But anyway, the thing is that Olivia Colman's character doesn't have as much to do as her other counterparts. But the thing is, she makes so much of the scenes. Like even when she's not like in a speaking scene, she makes sure that you recognize her and realize that she's there, and that is. that says a lot about her, the way that she presents herself, and a lot of that is her comedic timing and her comedic training that helps her do that. And especially when it comes to that final filthy joke, we've already established she's got a dirty mind. She's
right. She shows up for the
thing.
birthday party with the fake boobs on, and
well, her first line is that I've been around the station a few times.
Yeah.
Is like she is. We get the sense that she respects someone who can dish it out as well as can take it, and she dishes it out to everybody. So. To send it back her way is kind of a way of getting her respect. Like, she would not respect you if you treated her as anyone less than as one of the team,
right?
And
one of the guys.
Yeah.
So the deep bench on this movie astounds me. Beyond the creative talent, Jim Broadbent. Rafe Spall, Timothy Dalton, Bill Bailey, David Bradley. We talked about a number of the smaller parts. No small actors. Stephen Merchant is a very tall man,
yes.
And he has a small role here. All of the Neighborhood Watch are veteran British actors. Bill Bailey, awesome from Black Books, and his stand-up. And you've got the Hound from Game of Thrones as the heavy, which, I mean, I just love that character, and I love to say, yarp.
Okay, I'm going to start to geek out a little bit here from the deep dive. So, we talk like Edward Woodward playing the guy who runs the nest at the police station for the NWA. That is the original Wicker Man. Right. He was the one. I don't know if I should spoil the end of the Wicker Man. I mean, it's a.
Is it the bees? The bees, not the bees.
Not that one. The original.
Oh,
the better
sorry.
one.
Yeah,
right.
The better one.
That one I haven't seen.
Also, for 80s television nuts, he's the Equalizer, the original Equalizer. But
right.
But Edward Woodward, he, like especially considering how much of the Wicker Man you definitely sense in this movie. There is so much Wicker Man tie-ins and references to this movie. I found it very hilarious that he's the one who's kind of running this. He was playing basically the Christopher Lee character in this. Paul Freeman, Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark is the Reverend. Like, my God. Like it was just weird because I just shown my daughter Raiders of the Lost Ark a few weeks ago, and just seeing him again, like, and just seeing him old, like that did something to me. Kenneth Cranham, who played Mr. Reaper, he was the he was the other Pinhead in Hellraiser 2. He was the doctor who goes crazy and becomes the main villain of Hellraiser 2. Like, all of these guys are deep into horror, British horror specifically.
Yeah.
Stuart Wilson, who the first time I saw him was in a little movie called Lethal Weapon 3, where he played Jack Travis.
Right there in the same genre there.
Yeah. Dirty Cop.
On.
Dirty Cop. And then, of course, he was the governor of California in Mask of Zorro, the one that stole Anthony Hopkins' baby, Catherine Zeta-Jones. So, again, so there are so many of these character actors who, again, just from their performances, from their.
I guess if you're familiar with them, just seeing their faces kind of helps populate this world. I'll mention two more. Julia Deakin, pint of lager, please, Mary. Right, Jerry, my love. Was on Spaced, obviously another Edgar Wright. And then David Threlfall, who played Martin Blower, a.k.a. Romeo, played the Bill Macy role in the UK Shameless. So the American Shameless is a remake of a British show. And he played that role.
To me,
Frank.
He looks so much like Bill Nighy. Like.
Yeah. They could be brothers for sure.
And I have to admit that Romeo and Juliet was, I cringed and laughed at the same time.
Sure.
Because they are they're doing Romeo and Juliet, but they're doing Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
It's an homage to Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
And I don't know if that's meant to be a kind of a loving poke at Baz Luhrmann, or if that's that's kind of Edgar Wright having a little bit of fun at something that he probably found to be pretty disgusting. I don't know.
And don't forget, they do have 2 semi-professional actors waiting in the wings.
Yes, one that was
an extra in Straw Dogs, and another who was a cadaver on Prime Suspect. So 2 great British crime thrillers, right?
Well, I don't know if you'd ever call Straw Dogs a crime thriller. That's in my opinion, that's one of the first torture porn movies ever made.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like at some point we will have to discuss Straw Dogs, but I do not look forward to that day. That movie is painful to watch.
They did a remake a few years back, didn't they?
Yeah, but it's boring.
Yeah. Boring. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Yeah.
Well, no, the thing is let's put it this way. When you have something that was intentionally trying to disturb you and was just making you feel disgusting all over, seeing this type of violence, and then you see something that was mild and was cautious.
Yeah, we're going for the PG-13 rating version.
Yeah, the thing is that you lose everything that the original was trying to say, and so all you basically have is a home invasion movie, like 2 steps short of The Purge. You guys know what's not boring. The Michael Bay school of directing, quick cut, shaky cam, let's speed up, slow down camera shots, the 360 pan.
Multiple angles, 360 pan. There are a couple shots in the movie where there are literally 8 cuts in 1 second.
It's
fantastic.
Yep. What do you guys make of that in terms of a comedy film?
One of my favorite shots in this movie, and it's like a half a second shot, but I absolutely love it, is when the bicycle girl opens the basket and she has 2 pistols and a thermos. That thermos just broke me. Like that just made that scene. And then of course the fact that she's dual wielding, shooting while riding her bicycle, like that is badass. I'll just put it this way: like I wish I could dual wield pistols.
The Reverend has taxi driver guns in his sleeves. Reverend Shooter is his name, but he has taxi driver guns that pop out of his sleeves.
Maybe you're not a man of God, but maybe you're a man in peace.
Fuck off, grasshopper. Jesus Christ.
I did want to mention before we go fully into the action, I did want to talk about a lot of those deaths being, like I mentioned it before, they're very horrific deaths. Like Messenger, the newspaper dude. That is such a horrific death to see on screen and just be completely smashed like that.
And he's still walking forward.
Yes, that was terrifying.
It was.
So I really...
It was slightly undone by the bad CG blood.
Yeah, well, it's 2007. I'm not worried about that. Yeah. But what I was going to say is that we were talking about all those classic like British horror actors that were inside the movie, and the fact that a lot of these kills and these deaths, and they did the slasher, like the mass slasher done so well, and the fact that like that is still one of my favorite like absurd, ridiculous, random deaths. Yeah, getting smashed by this huge
Final Destination style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, this movie does the horror genre justice without making it about jump scares and like that setup and fake out stuff. They just do it. There's no like, oh, and you open the door and it's just a shirt, like The Shadow or, is whatever. But this is like just in your face, and it happens so fast that by the time it's over, you're like, did I really see that?
Right.
I feel like the film is paying homage when it comes to the horror aspects, specifically to the Wicker Man and the Omen. I feel like is also there's a sequence in the Omen where a sheet of glass decapitates a guy, which is absolutely horrific. And I feel like those scenes are what Edgar Wright was inspired by when it comes to the horror aspects. But there is one other homage that I don't think gets enough appreciation, which is when Nicholas Angel comes to town riding a white horse. You know, packed to the gills. Take a look at his horse. And I love the fact that this is a tie-in specifically to High Noon, of all things. You know, the lone sheriff of London. Even a tie back to. You
can't be the sheriff of London. Like,
this is the sheriff coming to town on the white horse to do battle at high noon. I feel like that would have been the only thing. Like, if we'd actually gotten the fact, if we'd seen somewhere that it was 12 o'clock or like 11:57 or something. Yep. That I feel like that would have
Well, there is you do hear, I believe, a church chime. Like as he rides in. Yeah. Can I help you with anything else? No, this is something I have to do myself. Listen, that the final scene, or not, I guess the final scene, but the scene of him going back into the station, punching in 999, which we've seen a million times. We know it's the evidence room code, you know, loading up, going out, and they don't show him stealing the horse, but they show him in the pasture, like it with the horse in one scene. And then Bill Bailey's like, when did we get a mounted division? And then you realize there's two of them. Nobody tells me nothing.
Well, what I also love about it is that 999 upside down is 666. So
the mark of the beast. Very good.
Again, we're kind of tying this all into the battles of good and evil.
Yeah. And of course, it's a white horse. He rides in on a white horse. Death follows after him. Pale horse. Mm-hmm. Let's see. The final battle. So we're getting into kind of the main action here.
All the cuts, all the action.
We have flirted with Michael Bay explosions. We did the run out of the building and over the hedge, and then nothing actually exploded. There was a quick cut car chase, but this is full-on Bayhem in Town Square.
My question is this homage or is this parody? I don't, or could it be both?
Well,
does it matter?
So my argument would be that Michael Bay is the parody and this is actually legit. Which, like, I will defend that in Edgar Wright is a competent filmmaker and understands the rules of cinema. And Michael Bay does not. And we're able to have an action sequence that is chaotic and disorienting, but is still very much grounded in continuity and you understand what's happening. This is probably a better executed action sequence. Basically, Michael Bay wishes, right?
Well, okay, I will agree with you on most, except for The Rock. I feel like if we were to put Hot Fuzz up against The Rock wins on that. But besides that, if we were to basically say that Michael Bay did not make that one, that someone else did, and he just put his name on it, which at this point I almost would agree with.
Both of these movies feature someone getting stabbed in the heart. Only this one has ketchup.
Oh man! But okay, so I first off, I gotta say I love the setup for the swan. The swan was a
no luck catching them swans then. Just the one swan, actually. That's a setup and payoff. No luck catching them killers. We talked about the stabbing. Danny puts the notepad in Simon Pegg's front pocket where he later stabs him. He's like, this could save your life.
Well, I think in a way he put it there on purpose.
No, I know, but I mean, it's all...
Setup, payoff.
Yes,
setup, payoff. It's fantastic.
Yeah, even the final battle in the model village, sets up and pays off everything. The shootout, there's little bits of I think when they're in the bar, there's like two shots for the price of one on the thing. Again, jumping through the air, firing two guns at the same time, firing your gun whilst in high-speed pursuit. I will, to this day, when I'm driving, stick my hand out the window, go bang, bang. I just love that. And then the Bayhem-style aerial car jump over the city, the big cop in a small town fight at the end, and then, so good.
Okay, so there's one character moment I gotta also kind of bring up, which is Danny, when it comes to, he finally becomes he gets his chance to have the action that he's always sought for. And what does he do when the shit goes down? He basically emulates Nick. He goes for shoulder shots. He doesn't go He doesn't go for the kill.
It's all non-lethal non-lethal hits in this. Everyone survives.
And I gotta admire that. I like, they pay off even that kind of thing in this. And I do also like the fact that when it comes to when it comes to Timothy Dalton, he's had an oral fixation throughout the entire film, constantly putting things in his mouth or talking about eating things. And what happens to him? He gets a steeple to the mouth.
And that is a brilliant reverse of Tim Messenger's death, right? Like that is that in reverse. It also gets him to give the best line. Oh, this really hurts. I'm going to need some ice cream.
Yes.
And of course, Danny has to, faced with the choice of shooting the criminal who is his own father, who he still loves, chooses to fire his gun in the air and go arg.
It's perfect.
With the exception of Galaxy Quest, where they set up something stupid and then have it pay off later in the movie and have it be an authentic character moment. And I know Eric hates me for saying this. This movie does the exact same thing.
Look, I'm not going to take anyone's fun away when it comes to them enjoying a movie, but I'm going to say that when it comes to this movie, it is a little silly, but it earns it. That's the thing I love.
Yeah, and of course the Shaun, the Swan is the Avenger, right?
Yes.
The Swan gets justice.
Justice for Swan. Let's just put it that way.
They can break a man's arm. Like, there's just such random shit, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay.
And again, it pays off. That's the thing I love about this. Like, we talked about it last week with Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The idea of films establishing and resolving. And this film does the same thing. There's a couple of scenes that are there just to kind of, well, I guess it is to establish character. So it does that throughout the entire film. And then when you get to the end, another thing that I really appreciate is when we have the line, the processing the criminals.
Yep.
That the guy that's like talking through the music, like, oh yeah, going to jail.
Yep.
Like don't fuck with Stanford. Like I love that. That just kind of.
Yeah, and everyone pays the price. Everyone faces justice. I guess with the exception of Mr. Wait, which one was it? Edward Woodward was Weaver, Mr. Weaver at the end.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess he does get blowed up.
He did kick the missile. I mean, landmine.
Well, he kicked the landmine.
The sea mine, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I also love how they set that up, and I love how that is natural. Well, I guess not the explosion itself. The explosion was weird. Like,
well, there's always in slasher movies. Again, this movie is both genres. Like it's cop action movie and it's slasher movie. In slasher movies, there's always one last scene where you think the killer has been beaten and they show up for like one last kill or like one last gasp.
Or I was also thinking about Carl from Die Hard. as well.
Okay, yeah.
You know, the one that got away, but couldn't, but he had to get his revenge.
Sure.
And that's when a character it allows for a character moment. And this one is Danny.
Right.
Danny, again, not going for the kill, goes to save Nicholas.
Yeah.
By putting himself
takes the between him and the blunderbuss.
Which, of course, also kind of reminds me of the ending of Shaun of the Dead, right?
Right.
Which, again, there's a tie into that as well, where Ed, basically, he dies to save Shaun, although he's also gets put in the shed. You know, even though he's dead, he's still alive. And here,
also, the first scene in this movie with Nick Frost is him stumbling around like a zombie, which I love. It's just this great continuity.
Absolutely. And so again, having him essentially die for Nick, and yet again comes back. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate that kind of symmetry. And as you know, especially as Nick grows as a person, as he starts to associate himself with the town, like when it comes to London, I don't think he really, you don't really get the sense that he sees London as his community. It's too big.
Right. Oh, he likes it here, and he has to do a significant amount of paperwork.
Yes. And so here you get the sense that he knows people. They want him. They've accepted him by the end of the film.
Yep.
And so he has found a community, and Danny is a part of that. And you know, whatever relationship, however they want to put it.
Yeah, don't put a label on it, Eric. Come on, just let them be.
It is what it is. Like that's the thing. You cannot put a label on this relationship, but at the same time, it is stronger than just what you would normally consider, especially for the action genre. The buddy cops don't.
Proper action and shit.
You know, I feel like this is a refutation. This is a criticism of action movies to an extent, especially the hardcore, like Bad Boys 2, the movie that this film kind of riffs on. There's a scene in that movie where, you know, Marcus and Mike are extremely homophobic in that scene. Like they are extremely homophobic. And here is a refutation, even though they there's a bit of respect to Bad Boys 2. This goes against that a lot,
right?
You know, so there's things in this movie that it's kind of a paradox in itself. And
well, I mean, what you're saying is that Edgar Wright takes a genre and while seemingly mocking it, improves on it.
Right, because he hits every single aspect of all the either the horror or the action right out of the park with this. Yeah. So he elevates the source material that he's riffing on, and he also references the source material inside the same dialogue that is written. Yep. So the whole line through everything is Bad Boys and Point Break, right? Yep. Like that whole idea of just being a complete awesome action star, and the fact that they end up subverting it a little bit at the end, where instead of doing a whole lot of craziness, doing the actual shoulder shots and stuff like that instead of the kill shots, that's even great too. So I don't know. I think that he makes it so good that it can definitely be seen as a parody, but he makes it. I want to see something like this. Right. I want him to do like a whole movie of the action of the horror.
Did he in Baby Driver? Like, do you think that Baby Driver, again, the most commercially successful Edgar Wright film, is him doing this authentically, like a crime movie? But like authentically.
Yeah, I just wish that ending was better, but yeah.
Honestly, I'll be honest. When it comes to Baby Driver, I feel like it's in areas it feels like an Edgar Wright movie, but it doesn't feel like an Edgar Wright movie throughout, which is a first for him.
I think because the style is toned down a little bit on there. Like, it's not as over the top as some of the other movies.
Yeah.
There's that, but
and it's a movie where he's not directly riffing on something, or in the case of Scott Pilgrim, adapting a source material. One could presume Ant-Man as well. It's where he's taking an original idea and he's trying to make a legitimate film on its own right, that while it riffs on heist movies, it's not a parody of heist movies.
In a way, I'm going to say it feels the most like a studio film.
No, it's exact. That's why did I mention it's the most commercially successful Edgar Wright film?
Yeah, I mean, and it definitely shows that. But it's like with the other films, like the Cornetto trilogy, Scott Pilgrim felt like,
of course,
he was given a lot of freedom to make a
big flop,
make a movie.
Unfortunately,
I still don't know why. I'll be honest.
No, I know.
I
know.
I said
it was
on the
just
podcast.
ahead of its time.
Oh, absolutely ahead of its time. And this one, so like, I look at Scott Pilgrim and I see Guardians of the Galaxy. I see all of these movies that have come since and done the exact same thing and been super successful. Audience in 2010 just didn't know what they were being given.
And it's fun because a lot of the, like, Captain America is in Scott Pilgrim.
Captain America, Captain Marvel.
Right. So it's funny to kind of see how
Superman. Let's see. Who else? Yeah, a bunch of them.
Yeah. Anyway. So it's cool to see that. And it's kind of that chicken and the egg kind of thing, right? Like that movie kills. This movie is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But if either of them came out now, they would have been major hits.
Sure.
Because of everything that we've seen and everybody being a little bit more accepting of the stylized, of the craziness that's going on. And I think also more people would know, that's what that is referring to. This is something that I can actually relate to a little bit more. And then you're looking at these, hopefully, not so indie movies. And then Edgar Wright being able to do more.
And Edgar Wright was making movies for podcasters and YouTube reviewers before either of those existed, right?
Right.
Like this movie, like look at the fun that we're having with this movie, like unpacking all of the little layers of it and everything and commenting on it. Like he made this movie for us. So that to me is a gift, but ahead of its time for sure.
I've got a slight confession to make. This isn't my first time talking about Hot Fuzz on a podcast. Actually, I think it was my third episode of my first podcast, which you cannot find, and I've lost all the episodes. But it was called Filmscope. And
if you have them downloaded, listeners, please.
I want them,
followed
please.
Eric, MovieDude Eric from his career, put them in a Dropbox folder for him.
Please. No, I'll tell you, I will pay money. If you can find Filmscope podcast, I want them back so badly. I need them. Also, I'm missing like half of the Quantum Tavern episodes that have gotten lost in time.
I mean, Edgar Wright is a director that helped me become a film nerd, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think we can all agree that his style of direction, the way he uses movies to comment on movies, makes all of it more accessible.
I agree. And I think that Edgar Wright is one of the filmmakers that I feel like you need to be seeing. I don't usually say this about filmmakers when it comes to like movements, but to me, I put Edgar Wright on the same level as Francis Ford Coppola, as Martin Scorsese. He does things differently, but what he does is he has a true vision, and he's a visionary that when he is firing on all cylinders, you're in for something special. Like when I heard about
Tarantino. Like I think of Edgar Wright and Tarantino in the same like headspace, in that both are students of film and television, and therefore they speak that language that if you are a student yourself, you're rewarded. If you're not, you learn.
When I talk about The World's End, and at this particular point, I got to finish this. I got to finish his filmography for Arthouse Legends. but I will be talking about him in association with Quentin Tarantino, because I feel like both of those films that especially now, The World's End and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, are essentially,
there's a double feature,
are essentially kind of doing the same thing, not the same way. They're doing, they're tackling two different things, two different subjects, but I feel like they're doing it through the same mannerism, and so I really would love to talk about that, but at this particular point, I probably
alcoholism, friendship, and nostalgia.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, did I?
No, you're right.
I think you hit it. Yeah. I think one of the other things with Edgar and why sometimes he doesn't get as well, definitely back 13 years ago, why he didn't get as much shine as some of the other ones is because for us, he's a contemporary person. Like he's our generation for the most part. Right. So as the media around him grows, the notoriety around him grows too. So he's growing with, like what you were talking about earlier, Jono, is as far as the podcasters, he's making movies for YouTube, but his movies are growing as far as with notoriety. No one would have done a 10-year retrospective on Scott Pilgrim if it wasn't for the fact that YouTubers and podcasters love that movie so much, and that's gained such a thing. But
or the fact that everyone else from that movie is a megastar.
Right. Well, there's that too. Yeah. But I think it's also interesting because Tarantino, I feel like is just a generation above him, but very, very much the same vein, right? So when you look at it, like all the films that Edgar Wright's doing, especially, a few years back, they are ahead of their time, but it's us trying to catch up with him. And making sure that like the media around him is talking the same way that his movies actually merit.
Have y'all heard Christopher Nolan interview Edgar Wright?
We have not.
It is on YouTube. I strongly the conversation that they have is one of the most insightful conversations about modern film, and it's like 30 minutes long. Yes, it is. It is amazing hearing them talk about film and relating to each other, even though their style is different. And I would say, like, I know I made a joke about this right at the beginning, but I would say the fact that Edgar Wright was one of two directors tapped to build the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, I know that went in its own direction. And Edgar Wright didn't fit that vision, and maybe still doesn't. But when I think about what the MCU has become, and like just Edgar Wright's sensibilities, I still feel as though his fingerprints are on it. It is
for sure,
and I feel like that's simply because he's something that younger filmmakers are going to aspire to.
Right.
I feel like even James Gunn, to an extent, aspires to be
James Gunn, Shane Black, the Russos, Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Not maybe directly involved, but like obviously Spider-Verse, right?
Spider-Verse is definitely inspired by Edgar Wright.
I think that there's something that the Marvel movies have done, which is, Winter Soldier is a conspiracy thriller. It's a comic book movie, right? But it's also 3 Days of the Condor. That, like, you can play with these different genres within that universe and have that be really cool.
Yeah. And so, I definitely, when we talk about The World's End and Lobster, I really hope
I will be back.
Join me.
I will be back.
I like how he just forces himself in there. He's like, look, this is going to happen.
Listen,
I'm sorry.
We're all going to get super drunk. That will be a requirement. We will drink 13 pints of beer and watch that movie and have fun.
I actually have it right here in front of me. I have the entire Cornettos.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, for those on the podcast, I have a 3-pack Blu-ray.
So I know we're getting a bit long.
Yes.
Can we go to the final question?
Yeah.
All right. So at this particular point, is there anything else on the geek sheet that we want to talk about? I know that we kind of tackled most of it, but anything specifically that we want to?
Well, I just want to say, like, where does Hot Fuzz sit? Either in the Edgar Wright filmography or in your ranking of the Cornetto Three Flavors trilogy?
Honestly, when it comes to the Cornetto trilogy, Hot Fuzz now is my number 2. The World's End is going to be my number 1, and when we talk about it, I'll explain why. But Hot Fuzz actually jumped over Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead is a great first film, absolutely. But I feel like Hot Fuzz was able to find subtlety that Shaun didn't have. And it's not against Shaun. Shaun's still a great film, but it's just that because with experience, he learned, and he took what he learned and he brought it to Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, I need to watch World's End again because I don't remember it being like that impactful for me. I do remember just like blue alien goo everywhere.
Smashy Eggman.
There you go. Yeah. I do also remember kind of like that turn, that emotional growth that Simon Pegg's character has, which I thought was kind of cool because he plays such a different person in each of these movies that it really made me happy to see that from him. But it could also be the same person, like because of the different stages, like what you mentioned a little bit earlier.
Or it could
John.
also be Simon Pegg himself.
Right, exactly. So I think it's cool, but I don't remember World's End really like sitting with me the way that it's sitting with you guys. So that would be my number 3. And then Hot Fuzz, I think, definitely jumped over Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead is just fun. Like I didn't think that it had so much to it, and it is a very big, impactful movie as far as the genre goes, for sure. But I just don't think that it's as good as everybody remembers. But I don't. Right. I don't know. I could be just jaded, mean like everything sucks. I don't know.
I would say Hot Fuzz has always been my favorite, and it was my favorite through the first time I saw The World's End. And then I went back and watched The World's End again, and I went, oh, I see what this movie is doing. And so for me, and I'll talk about this. I'm not going to, shoot my shot on The World's End now, but I will say that it's a more mature film. And so for me, Hot Fuzz is hot on its heels, number 2. With Shaun of the Dead being kind of the more immature. But, I mean, that fits so beautifully with the arc of a trilogy that you have this evolution through the 3 movies, that you have a maturing in tone, in a maturing of a director's skill, and a maturing of the lead actors that you're able to pull off The World's End. That would not have worked as the first movie. Shaun of the Dead would not have worked as the last movie. I think Hot Fuzz being the middle chapter, when the one-off became a trilogy, this is where it happened. It's such an important movie in the saga. It's the Wrath of Khan. I mean, whatever. It's the Aliens. I don't know. It's the Godfather 2. It's whatever the great second movie is that's better than the first one that makes you, dying to see the third.
The Last Jedi?
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, but still. I mean, I think the Cornetto trilogy would not be a trilogy without this movie being executed as amazingly as it was. So.
For sure, yeah. And I think one of the other things that I like about the trilogy itself is that Edgar Wright plays in such different boxes every single time. The World's End, if you take all the alien stuff out of it and just the weird, creepy, like what you said, just eggshell juice boxes, basically.
Yeah.
It's a very gripping story of trying to regain something that's lost, regain your youth in there, right? Because you have Nick Frost being this businessman, like this person that lost everything.
The roles
reversed.
Again,
yeah,
and he's the the grown up It's just a beautiful thing about this trilogy.
Yeah, and
it's all about aging. I do want to say, like, toxic masculinity versus positive masculinity is a big theme in all three movies, and it's always about getting to that, like, positive masculinity relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's, your romantic relationship. It's always, like, at the forefront, and honestly, I haven't seen anything written or discussed about that. That's an angle that would be kind of interesting to explore.
No, I feel like that's a conversation that we need to talk about with The World's End. I feel like that's the thing that I think was really hammered on with that film, and I do want to wait until we get to that episode.
Because I just want to say, like, it's cool that we can see, like, with the different genres that he's playing with, that if you take the comedy out, I feel like World's End could have definitely been like a heavy drama and almost Oscar worthy with the way that he was pushing it, right? Mm-hmm. And then you look at Hot Fuzz, it could have gone either way. Whether you want to go with the straight horror or if you want to go with the crazy ass action, he would have done great with both, right? Yeah. And then the same thing with Shaun of the Dead. I do also love the fact that when we're talking about positive masculinity, you have basically a zombie for a pet that just plays video games with you the entire day. So that's fantastic. That's the kind of positive masculinity that you really need in your life.
Well, the series matures. It gets to that point. It may not start there. Remember Peter Serafinowicz's character too. Yeah.
Well, Ed had to die to become an actual human being. What can I say?
That's true.
All right, so let's go ahead and listen.
Can I say the thing?
Yes.
All right. Are you ready to be Judge, Judy, and Executioner?
Absolutely. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about that at all. Before we go into the end, the series that I was talking about with Olivia Colman is called Rev, and it has Tom Hollander in it, and it's fucking fantastic.
I forgot she was in that too.
Yeah, watch it. It's great. She's amazing in it.
Yes. Who knew that there were so many Oscar winners in this movie? Yeah. Like, that was the thing that got me. Like, Jim Broadbent won for Iris. Olivia Colman won for The Favorite, which is a movie we will be discussing at some point on this podcast because I want to talk about that movie so bad.
There's 3 Harry Potter actors. There's a bunch of Lord of the Ring actors. There's
you throw a Timothy Dalton, and you're going to get a Harry Potter actor somewhere.
Yep.
Like Timothy Dalton being one of the better parts of Doom Patrol.
Yep. Penny Dreadful.
Meh.
The Rocketeer.
Anyone not going to mention he was James fucking Bond?
Nah,
he was
I don't
James
care about
Bond
that.
For 2 movies.
Well, 2 movies, absolutely. But he didn't overstay his welcome, unlike certain other Bonds.
All right.
All right, so at this point, are we ready to call it?
Yep.
All right.
Yarp.
Chris, Lobster. Do you agree with the critics and audiences on Hot Fuzz? Do you give it a pass? Do you give it a fail? Or do you give it a maybe? Lobster.
All right. So there is so much that I love about this movie. I really, really have a hard time coming up with anything negative to say about it. So I'm just not going to. I'm going to say that this movie is amazing. It is multi-layered. It is multifaceted. Each rewatch of the film, you find something new that you did not see before. This movie deserves to be watched 8 times. It will not get old. It will not get boring. It continues to be an outstanding entry in the comedy genre, the action genre, the buddy cop genre, the slasher horror conspiracy genre. The idyllic town is actually dystopia genre. Everything that it does is amazing. Couple things that we have not mentioned. Cinematography, outstanding. David Arnold's score, speaking of James Bond movies, outstanding. The deep bench of the cast. I know I said it before. Outstanding. Proper action and shit. Another beautiful day in God's country. Every line of dialogue is quotable, referenceable. again, just a fantastic film. I use the phrase, our numbers have gone a bit squiffy all the time to describe a situation in a given moment. References to other films, forget it, it's Sanford. I don't even know where to end.
That's a tie into our first episode, by the way.
Yeah. Chinatown. Very good. The first episode ever of Arthouse Legends. Look it up. I'm going to just say it's a pass. Playtime's over, biggin.
Chris.
Whatever Lobster said, I agree with. So pass. You can just give it a big old yarp.
I'm going to just say this. I think I've spilled out all the love I have for Hot Fuzz, and it was one of those that, again, when we decided to do this podcast, I really wanted to rewatch it because, to me, I felt like this was the one that got overlooked quite a bit. I enjoyed it, but I didn't realize just how amazing this film was and how better than Shaun of the Dead it was.
Yeah.
Which is something that really surprised me. And the thing is that, honestly, I feel like even watching it 3 times this week for this podcast, I think I need to go back and rewatch it. But I think I need to rewatch it with the entire cornetto. I feel like this is like the Before trilogy, like the Godfather duology, maybe even number 3. At some point, I'll try to watch 3 along with 1 and 2. The Lord of the Rings trilogy. I feel like you...
The Die Hard trilogy.
We'll get there. But the thing is that when it comes to the cornettos, I love these films, and I guess I'm tipping my hand when we talk about The World's End at some point.
Right.
But
I think we all have a little bit, except for Chris, maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's even more reason.
But he'll get there. He'll come around.
Yeah.
After an hour and a half of us talking about The World's End, he'll eventually have to give in. But hey,
is this the positive masculinity or the toxic masculinity?
You will love this movie.
I will beat it into you.
It was kind of the same with In Bruges. I had gotten bombarded on that.
That's
one.
true.
And Bruges is a good movie, man.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go back to that episode and listen. Anyway, so but again, honestly, the cornettos are so good. I've already bought this twice now, and if it comes out on Criterion and they do a Criterion of the cornettos, I will buy it again in 4K, double widescreen, however they want to put it. I will buy it. This is a movie that if my local Alamo Drafthouse were to do a cornetto trilogy, I will buy a $25 ticket and enjoy every moment of that. This is an incredible film. It is a credible number 2 film. Not to be mistaken with the other number 2, but absolute pass. Go if you haven't seen this movie. First off, why did you listen to this podcast before?
Right.
I feel like we
spoiled it.
Yes, sorry. You had it coming. But yeah, absolutely a pass. Love this film, and I cannot wait until we eventually get around to The World's End.
All right. You're off the fucking chain.
Oh, and just something else. I'll be honest here. I'm so glad that no one said the greater good in this podcast.
The greater good.
Because
I actually do that all the time. That and part of the ship, part of the crew.
No, I do.
I
do that every time I hear the greater good. I immediately, no matter what, like
the greater good. Even
in professional meetings.
Shut it.
I hear the greater good. I have to say the greater good, even if I have to mutter it. Greater good. So yes, that's my takeaway from Hot Fuzz. All right, so Lobster, where can people find you on the internet?
So I've mentioned it before, but Legends podcast. I can be found weekly doing reviews of popular films and talking about news, upcoming trailers, box office results. That is a fun podcast. We don't go as heavy into the film criticism. We talk about more popular films, but we have been branching out. In some recent weeks, we have done Midsummer, we have done The Vast of Night, and we have done Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Our next episode is a 20-year anniversary special on Bryan Singer's X-Men. We'll also be doing Birdman and Scott Pilgrim versus the World in July. And then in August is our theme month, Augheist, where we have Dog Day Afternoon,
nice.
Another Singer Anniversary, The Usual Suspects, and Hell or High Water on tap, all leading up to our 10th anniversary of the podcast in August. So check us out, Legends Podcast on iTunes and whatever else you can find.
Chris.
You can find me on my podcast called Ambition Radio, where I interview people who have found some kind of balance between their life, family, career, and the pursuit of their passions, dreams, or hobbies. I'll hopefully be posting more stuff. I am going through that balancing act right now by actually rejoining the workforce for the most part and not working from home right now. So it's going to be a fun time. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, Ambition Radio Podcast. Hit me up on there. And then, yeah, that's it.
And if you're wanting any more Arthouse Legends goodness, you can go onto our website, arthouselegends.libsyn.com. You'll find all of our old episodes there. You can, if you have iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, you can find us on there as well. If you would like to check out our YouTube channel, we're at Arthouse Legends. Also, we have a Facebook page if you want to come and harass us a little bit and tell us about awesome stuff that you like about our show, or if you have a suggestion for an episode, you can do it there on Twitter at Arthouse Legends, or if you just want to send us a nice little note, tell us how amazing we are and how you need more Arthouse Legends in your life, you can do so at arthouselegends@gmail.com, and I will get straight back to you. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. This is the MovieDude Eric.
This is Chris Tondevold.
This is Jonolobster. Jog on.
And make sure you put your mask on before leaving the drive-in.